Hey, everybody, welcome to Two Comic Book Dudes. We really appreciate you coming back and checking out our show. Tonight, we have a very special guest with us, Pat Shand, comic book writer extraordinaire. As always, I'm Aaron Clutter, editor in chief of Comic Books, and with me is Justin Paget, our managing editor.
Hey, everybody.
And tonight, we would like to interview Pat a little bit and talk about his new book that is coming out. I'll give you a little presentation here. It's called Family Pets, and I did get to read a little bit about it, at least the first chapter, and it's a very interesting story, different than kind of some of the stuff that I've seen from you, Pat. It was kind of a good, interesting difference, you know.
That's good to hear.
So, do you want to tell us a little bit about the story?
Certainly, yeah. It's the main difference of the books that I normally write are in the Green Fairy Tales universe. So we have books like Robin Hood, Van Helsing, and those under the same kind of banner. But this is a creator-owned project. I thought it up with the artist Sarah Dill, and it's a passion project that we've been trying to get off the ground for a long time. And we did a digital run a couple of years ago. But it's really hard to get digital books, especially digital books for children, off the ground, because I find that people who read comics are very they love going to comic shops, love going to bookstores, and just love the idea of a physical book. You know, so I was thrilled that Scholastic has been collaborating with the company Silver Dragon Books, which is an imprint of Zenescope, and they decided to put out some of Zenescope's children's and all ages young adult properties. And one of the first ones is this one, my creator-owned book with Sarah. And concept-wise, it's about a girl named Thomasina. Her family, well, her parents were killed when she was 5 years old, and all her life she's been obsessed with fantasy literature like Harry Potter and Narnia, where it's always the orphans, the abandoned kids who go on a magical adventure and essentially make, in her eyes, their pain worth it in a way, and show that they're special. And she's sort of been obsessed with this since she was very young. And now that she's 16, she's coming to terms with her impending adulthood and the fact that her life is not going to go in that direction. And then one day she wakes up and her snake has been turned into a dapper British gentleman, and her family, her foster family, has been turned into pets. So we've got a dog, a cat, lizard, and a bird. And she has no idea what happened, but the snake does, and he wants to lead her on a kind of magical journey to find the French horn-playing wizard responsible for their situation. So it's a pretty weird, high-concept book, but at its core, it's this story about loss. It's a story about being a young woman, and it's a story about just growing and finding your place in a society that is trying to force you in one direction when inside you dream way bigger.
I really like that it definitely was kid focused. I found it very easy to read, very easy to get through. It's something that I would hand off to my daughters to read. It's along their lines. You know, they're My Little Pony fanatics, and they like all the fantasy kind of books they get from school. So this would definitely be one that they would want to pick up.
You know, Sarah and I were inspired by books like Smile, which is it's a standalone graphic novel, and the sequel was Sisters, and we love those kind of books. The books like Foiled too, and now there are these great successful young adult female-driven books like Lumberjanes, and even books from Marvel like Squirrel Girl, Miss Marvel. Those are just books that you would have never seen before that are now finding their audience, because that audience has always been there, but the comic book industry has just never supplied them with material, has never given those readers representation. And I think that it's a really important movement in comics, and I hope that some of those readers will find that some of the things that they love in those books might be present in Family Pets.
That's great. Yeah, that's definitely something I've seen even in the last few years. You talked about Marvel with Squirrel Girl. Some of the other things they've done, like the Disney Kingdoms, those are definitely very child focused, but they're regular comics. They're not just like cartoony. Like they're not. It's not Scooby Doo. It's something that is a kid focused story, and and it's interesting for adults too. That's one of the things. It's not like I read this first chapter of Family Pets and said, "Oh, this isn't something I'd read." I want to finish the rest of it, so I'll definitely read through the whole thing. It's really good.
Thank you. And yeah, a big part of what makes young adult literature so special to me is that it doesn't mean that these books are written for a younger age. It means that the characters are young adults. The perspective that we're seeing is the young adult perspective. They should not be talking down to the readers, and I think that a mistake that so many books and so many graphic novels have made in the past is that instead of making a book that is smart and intelligent and as nuanced as an adult graphic novel, they're making young adult books talk down to the readers that they perceive as less intelligent, when that it could not be less the case. Books like, you see a book like The Fault in Our Stars, which now that young adult literature is being taken seriously, that's one of the most successful books out there. And John Green writes for children, for teenagers, the way that any writer would write for an adult. He respects his audience, and he doesn't spoon feed stories to them. And I think an important part of the young adult movement in both literature and comics is the fact that these writers and these artists are now respecting their audience enough to give them a story that's worthy of them.
Definitely. That's good. Well, we'll jump over here. We'll take a look at, there's a lot more information on your Tumblr. So I wanted to give a link to our viewers for your Tumblr account, and they can check out there and see a bunch of other information about Family Pets. And also you can find this book on Amazon, and we'll have a link in the description text here below the video. And we'll also have some more information in the article that this video will be hosted in. So definitely take a look at that. And then if you want to hunt Pat down, you can find him at the Zenescope booth at San Diego Comic-Con. And then you said you'd also be at New York Comic-Con?
Well,
okay. Will you be at the Zenescope booth there as well?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, great. And then, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, it's fine. I don't want to make this too home shopping network, but I just got these in the mail, and I'm super excited. They're the final physical versions. And
let's do this.
What's so cool about the book, I didn't really know, is the price point is $9.99, which is the same thing that Image has been doing with their volume ones. And this is a 6-issue volume. It's 6 issues in there, and the final issue is double size. There are extras, and Sarah's art is just so beautiful. And there you go.
Yeah.
And yeah. It's a lot of content for a smaller price, so I'm pretty stoked about that. That people who might not have the money to spend $16, $20, $25 on a graphic novel can easily get that for the same price that they can get any volume 1 of a really popular series.
That's really good.
That's a lot of bang for your buck right there.
Yeah, for sure.
You're basically getting almost 8 books, 7.5 books there. That's amazing.
Yeah. That's really good. Well, that makes it accessible to the younger readers too, because a lot of times they're on allowance and they don't necessarily have $100 to blow a week like some people do. That's me. Sorry. They don't have a job where they're going out and making however much money I make every 2 weeks. So.
Yeah, man. I remember when I was a kid and I would go to the bookstore, and my parents, as my allowance, would buy me 1 book per week, and I couldn't make that like a $20 book. It had to be $4, $5, $6, $7, $8, $9, at most. So I think that this will be a good price point for that, because it's a nice graphic novel that you can sit and read and not be done in 2 seconds, and it's affordable. So I think that should appeal to some parents out there too.
That makes a big difference. Well, and even just reading through the first, I think it's like 20-some pages for that first chapter. It took a while. It took me probably 25, 30 minutes to read through that. So, and I read pretty fast, so that's good. My wife reads comics just because I make her, And she said she really likes them when they have more of a story and they take some time. So there was a series I handed off to her a couple weeks ago, and she just got around to reading it over the last few days. And she said, I really love it because it takes me longer to read and there's more story there. And I think a lot of people are like that. If there's more story, sometimes it's good to have that action and have all that art, but sometimes it's good to have a story you have to think about and think through.
I agree.
Yeah, and I like this too because it is real life. It's more real life. At first I was kind of like, oh, this is almost like a slice of life kind of indie book, and then it adds the fantasy concept, which I really liked. So what kid doesn't think about their pet talking to them? I thought that one comment she makes was cool. It'd be nice if you could talk, and then she puts him away, and boom, the next morning, Sebastian is standing in the kitchen. So it was pretty good.
I've thought about it a lot, about if I have 3 cats, and if my cats could talk, I'd be interested in hearing what they have to say, but on some level, I might be kind of worried about it, you're with your cat in your most intimate moments because you don't even think about it, if your cat gets into the bathroom while you're showering, you don't worry about it. But then a big part of this is that Thomasina doesn't have many friends, so she's confided all of these really painful things about her life to her snake, and then all of a sudden he gets transformed into this boy who's about her age, and it's sort of mortifying for her, It's a really interesting situation, I think.
Yeah. I know I have 2 cats, and I know if they could talk, they'd just be really critical, so I don't want that to happen. Yeah. All right. Well, I definitely appreciate everybody watching out there. Please subscribe, like, share. We want to get the word out about this book. This is a great series. Anything to get good comics out to our readers and get more people interested in comics. So, Pat, we definitely appreciate you taking the time to talk with us tonight. Justin, did you have anything you wanted to say?
I just had one question for Pat, just because I think I've watched some interviews with you before, and I don't know if I've ever heard this, but what was your gateway book into comics, whenever that happened in your life?
Right. There are 2 of them because it happened at 2 different points in my life. The first comic I ever read, I was very young, and it was Stephen King's Creepshow, and that book scared me immensely, and I ended up loving that one, but I didn't look for more comics. I had a decent shoebox of comics that my uncle got from the city, but I didn't go looking for comics. I was just kind of enthralled with what I had there, but my interest was more prose. I was a big fan of Goosebumps, R.L. Stine, that kind of thing. But then actually recently, it had to be about 2006 or 7, they started doing the Buffy the Vampire Slayer comics on season 8. And as they were preparing to release that, I was thrilled that Joss Whedon was going to return to the world of Buffy, so I started to seek out the Buffy and Angel and Spike books that were already going on from the past. So the first one I loved was a book called Spike Asylum by Brian Lynch, and he ended up going on to write Angel After the Fall, which is the sequel to the final episode of Angel, and that was the book. But overall, it was the Buffy and Angel books that brought me back into comics. And ever since then, I've been loving everything. I've been trying to find more and more every single. It's becoming a big addiction, Yeah.
Yeah, there should be a support group for us for sure. I'm Aaron. I'm addicted to comics. Yep.
I like the thing is I watch your reviews quite a lot. I just saw the Grim 111 one, and it's super cool and super exciting to see reviews done this way. It's a very different format than anything that I've seen before, and it's thrilling to hear people just talking in a casual conversation pretty much about the work, and it's really cool. So just wanted to thank you guys for that.
Well, thank you. That's a big.
That's great.
Yeah, I don't want to say that's great. Yeah, and I've been reading your stuff especially since April of last year, and I've read everything, and really, really liked it. So I don't think I've read anything that you wrote that I didn't like. So
Thanks, that's awesome.
yeah, I had seen I had seen stuff you'd done before, but I really just didn't get into it until I started working with Comic Booked, and the opportunity came up. Hey, we used to do this, and then it kind of dropped off. And I said, well, I'll definitely pick up. We try to do full publisher reviews for a couple of different companies, and just to make sure that the comics are getting out there, because there are so many good books that people sometimes overlook. And I know, sometimes the Zenescope stuff is that way, where it gets overlooked sometimes because of the covers. And I know, we kind of talked about how the Silver Dragon division is more the kids focused stuff, and the rebranding for that definitely makes sense, because there has to be a separation. You have more of the adult books, and then you have more of the kids books. But the stories are strong. The stories are what every publisher is trying to do now. A strong female character, strong story, and continuity. And so many of the publishers just don't do that. So
what's interesting to me right now is the comment about the covers is 100% right. But at the same time, I believe that Zenescope has a built-in audience for those covers. So it's sort of this vicious cycle where they get different readers if they stop that, but there are other readers who read just because of the covers and collect those. So it's totally not my arena. I write the stories and I edit the interior art, so I have no say as far as that goes. But it's interesting because Grim Fairy Tales, since I started writing it with issue 101, has kind of become a young adult graphic novel series. It's more young adult. The characters are young adult. The action is superhero-y, but more in a kind of like Young Avengers kind of way than say Avengers or X-Men. And that actually could be a Silver Dragon book, I think. But it's such a title for them. I just wrote the 116th issue. It's been going on for so long that I'm just glad that the changes that I wanted to do were well received. I don't think they'll ever make it a Silver Dragon book because it's been so successful under their main banner. But it's a very different book right now than it used to be, and I think some readers are seeing that. But I think that if the larger comic book reading audience could see some of the interior art and see the stories that we're seeing, we'd have a much wider reach,
I agree. And that's one of the reasons when we do our reviews, we try to talk about how strong the stories are and how much stuff is going on. We still show the covers because the covers are what people want to see. But we do definitely talk about the story itself and how the continuity works. I mean, I love that I can pick up the different books and have the crossovers back and forth. I'm still waiting for Realm Wars to finish up so that I can figure out what happened with all these characters that you killed off, and they're back now.
Good stuff. All right.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, we appreciate your time again, and definitely viewers, we appreciate you coming back every week and every few days actually, and checking us out. So, if you have any questions for us or questions for Pat, please leave them in the comments. I'll make sure he gets them, and we'll get replies out to you. And check out Family Pets. This is really a cool book. Like Pat said, the first imprint or first new book in the Silver Dragon imprint. So it's something worth checking out. We appreciate, Pat, your time. Oh, Justin.
Just so our audience knows, when is Family Pets going to be released? Is it this coming week?
It's going to be in August. I'm not sure the exact date. I sent a couple emails today trying to find out, but everyone was busy. It's print day, so no one was able to answer. But it's going to be sometime in August.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah, as soon as we find out for sure, we'll definitely have a review of it up that week. So we'll get that out for everybody as well. So, all right. Well, thanks for joining Two Comic Book Dudes and listen to us talk to Pat Shan and talk about his new book. And we definitely appreciate it. Look forward to talking to you again. All right. Thanks, everybody.